Carl, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I tell people that I'm taking an online figure drawing class, they're like, well, in person is so much better. And you're just not going to learn what you need to learn. And so what would you tell those people? Because I feel like I'm learning already,
Yeah.
just in the 2 weeks. So I mean, I
Um,
realize like if you're painting and it's hard to get the tone of the skin, but if you're drawing, I just don't see the difference myself. But I'm just curious what your thoughts on that.
there are differences. And however, I was teaching a painting class live. I would not teach one online for the very reason that your colors are different. Your there are so many things. I can't teach without actually dipping your brush into your palette and showing you something, right, on your piece, and while you're working. And that's not
Mhm.
possible. With figure drawing, on the other hand, and I agree with you, I think we can learn as much and maybe even more. What it doesn't have is that friendly feeling of being in the room with everybody. You don't feel, and that's why I want everybody to turn their webcams on. So we feel like we're together. And I want you to feel like you can ask questions at any time and that we can interact about anything. That's
Yeah.
why we get as close to being together as we can be. But what we don't have is the ability to walk around the room, interact with people, go out and have a smoke, and and things like that. You see,
Yeah.
and sometimes there's a compromise in resolution. And yes, we are now looking at an image and not the thing itself. However, people struggle with the idea of doing three dimension anyway. And so you need to learn concepts for three dimensionality. And you can still draw pretty flat right there in the classroom. You don't need to have an image in front of you to accomplish flatness. It happens right off the
That's
bat.
for sure.
Right. So to be able to draw the way I'm suggesting you draw sculpturally, that things feel like they have roundness to them. It's about ideas. And you can spend 10, 12 weeks in a classroom and never get those ideas any more than you would on on a virtual class like this, right? Where we're working on Zoom here. You're working with a two-dimensional image that represents a three-dimensional one. And if you get the concepts right, you will get the three-dimensionality in your drawing. And contrary to what anyone might say, it's a kind of automatic response to say, well, it's not as good as a classroom. But yes, I like the classroom. I enjoy the classroom. But now, those are some of the things that say, yes, the classroom is better. But there are also advantages to working this way. For instance, when I work on your work, Pam, you send me something and I'm working on it here. I can zoom in on it. We can look at it in detail. Everybody that's here will look at it with us. Nobody's missing it. It's all up front. Everybody's just as close to the model as everybody else. There's no distance, no too close, right? We do have to deal with camera distortion. Now, we do have distortion when we're in the classroom too, especially if you're in the front row. But the brain takes care of that. But once you frame an image like we have here, all our images are framed. There's a tendency the brain not to fix that distortion. So you have to work at that. I
So do you
think,
think that you have to, because you have that distortion on the computer,
yeah,
do you think that it's best to supplement by going to like a live studio drawing session, even if there's no instruction,
no, I
to
don't think
train your
that's the,
brain?
I don't think that's the answer. I
Okay.
think the answer is you work on a general model. So you correct your proportions that you see. The
Okay.
same thing as if you're sitting close in a figure class. If you're actually there, there can be a distortion, and you still have to deal with it. You still have to make the adjustments.
Yeah.
The way you make adjustments is to be in control of your figure drawing skills And the only way you can do that is to create a general model of proportions. Then
Okay.
you make sure that the figure you're drawing is proportionally correct.
Okay, that
Can't
makes
do it.
sense.
You see, so the truth is if you do the things that we discuss in this classroom, the way we're doing it here, you'll be better at it than you would be in a classroom. Seriously.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay. It's about ideas.
Yeah.
Stage 2 is about concept. It's about formulation and conceptual things. So you think about a better way to draw something or a simple way to draw something rather than simply copying. See, you can be in a classroom and you can copy for 20 years and never get better. I'm telling you that I've watched it happen. Teachers that never get better because they're teaching what they know and they never change it. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
That is
interesting.
really interesting.
So you've got to realize that just because you're in my classroom, it doesn't mean that you're going to get all the goods. It's up to you. You got to take what I say and put it to work. Can't just copy the ideas down and put it in a notebook and assume you've got it. You have to take it out and cook it according to the directions. If you don't cook it according to the directions, you might as well just laminate it and tuck it under your arm and say, I have it here, because it won't be inside. It's about acquiring the knowledge by ingestation. All right.
Yeah.
So you can be in a classroom and have the best teacher on the planet and still walk out not learning much. It's how you deal with the information. So I'm trying to tell you that you all need to create a general model, and that will help you. And you need to respect the section that talks about conceptual understanding.
So
Or
can I follow up with another question then?
yeah,
Because I
go
did
ahead.
my general model, and I'm sorry if I'm dominating and other people can.
By the way, Pam, you're not done with your general model. It should be ongoing.
That's what I was going to ask. Like,
Yeah.
how often do you
Yes,
redo your general model?
always.
Because
Like as often as you check your email.
really,
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
it becomes yours. It's organic. You know, you look at somebody and you say, I like their proportions better than my general model. Maybe I should change my general model. Well, what's the difference? Then make the difference, you see? Then you
Interesting.
say, well, I like their proportions, but I want the head to be slightly smaller or slightly larger, or the neck longer. See, so you're creating something that suits you aesthetically, and you're constantly, and then suddenly you see something about an anatomical part that you never noticed before. Now that becomes part of your general model because you put it in. You remember that. You see, things like that.
Yeah. So do you have all your general models that you've ever done, or you just keep going and you don't ever revisit the general models you've done in the beginning?
I'm simply using the current general model and I'm refining it, and it's changing as I learn more and more. As I
Wow.
learn more, I keep adding it to the general model till you can draw completely out of your head without the figure in front of you. That
Interesting.
to that degree, yes.
Huh.
Makes sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I'll keep drawing them then.
So I can't emphasize this enough. If you're working in the studios, you're constantly working with models, right? So, and you're going to be working with the models that show wants you to work with, not yours. You're going to be working with their models now, right? So you have to learn those models in order to say storyboard or animate or do in-betweening, anything. You need to learn their models. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, so the idea that you have your own model that's based on your own sense of aesthetics means that you're taking care of your own world of thinking, not the world of your director producer on some show, right? But when you're on their show, you have to give yours up and do theirs. Yeah?
So when you're on, if you're doing that kind of work, which I'm not, but I do tons of commissions for people, but if you're doing the work for someone else, you abandon your general model, or you reference your general model and say, okay, well, the torso is longer in here than I normally do, or the legs are longer, or whatever.
Exactly. See, so if you've got a general model, even though they want something stylized, you have the skill to move towards that stylization and be consistent about it, and maybe even bring something fresh to it. All right. You become for for and for your clients, you become something like a studio musician would be. I want to do a jazz. No, I want to do classical. Okay, no problem, because you understand music. You see, understand music so well that you're not thrown off by one style over another style. You've got a general skill and you can take it anywhere you want to take it.
That's a
Because,
good analogy.
yeah. All right. And I've watched that happen. I've sat in where music was handed to an orchestra that was about ready to produce a score. And it was different than, they were given 5 minutes to look at it. No warming up, bang, out of the chute, everyone working, top notch. And that's why I'm saying that you got your skill. Let's see it right from the get-go. No push-ups, no, hamstring adjustments and the rest of it. You're tuned up. You're tuned in. So you go right to it. That makes sense, everybody? Okay.